All right. I feel like it's time for me to also just talk a little bit more about Destiny. Because very recently we have both had the showcase, but Joe Blackburn was also out to comment on the state of the game post that I also did comment on, so I thought it was fair that I gave my response because I was obviously very negative in my video about the state of the game, but I feel like it's also worth pointing out when Bungie has a W, obviously, I don't think it should just be something where I just shit on them for no reason. So here we're going to talk about a couple of W's. There are a lot of good things within this latest Twitter post thing from Joe Blackburn, but also the showcase. So let's just talk a little bit about it. But before I do any of that, I just wanted to say thanks for the recent support. It's been awesome. Just thank a lot. It means a lot. All right, so I feel like it's just starting right from the beginning, right? So Joe Blackburn made a Twitter video discussing the state of the game post, and really was just as negative about it as we were. He realized that it wasn't really that good and according to him, it's because people are head down working on final shape, which is obviously a good thing. But the main reason the main criticism that he tackles is PvP related. There isn't really any of the things raised about Gambit. It wasn't mentioned at all. But to cover the bigger picture of it, I feel like it would be that we'll be getting one free armor set as compensation for them not making one for the Vanguard and Crucible this season, Vanguard, Crucible, and Gambit this season. We will be getting one free armor set that was supposed to go to Eververse, which is a good thing, straight up thanks, I guess. It shouldn't really be a thing that was necessary to win over goodwill from the community, like do better, I guess. But we'll take what we can get at this point. But it's a good thing regardless. Then I mentioned that they're making a strike team specifically to create PvP content because it's obviously that the PvP model that we currently have isn't working. Partially because of the one map thing, where a map has to do everything and can't just specifically focus on either being close range or long range or whatever. It has to be good on everything, which they can't make within a year straight up, and all of those things are good, obviously, but it does raise the questions, why wasn't that a thing already? Why did we need to wait for a dedicated PvP team to exist? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense in my opinion, but it is a thing that they do have now, and you know what, taking it from that's a huge W. That's really good. Straight up, just some really good news there. And at that point, he sort of just talks a little bit about the reveal. He mentions that it is a specific response to, the criticism Destiny had gotten. And that's, again, completely fine. So moving into the showcase, which I feel like is the next really big thing we gotta mention here, we gotta talk about the final shape and the plans for the future of Destiny. So the final shape itself looks fantastic. So I've seen some criticism which I feel like is unwanted from somebody who's saying that because the entire idea with the final shape is that we're going inside of the Traveler, and the Traveler is supposed to be this representation of our entire 10-year-long journey now, from when you started in Destiny 1 to where we are now in Destiny 2. It's supposed to represent all of that visually as well, with like some old areas coming back with changes and stuff. And I saw somebody going, what a nice way to put that you haven't made like any new assets or something like that. And my take on it, I feel like it's not really that deep. I think it's pretty good overall. I mean, yeah, you want the commendation of like all these fantastic things that's been happening throughout the years, or the major expansion, the story pops. You want them to end up in a place where both feels new but also old and reliable, right? Like, you don't want to stray too much from it. I feel like it's an overall good thing, and I think the areas that people have been mentioning, like they are good. They are remade enough to the point where you can't really just call it an old reused asset. It isn't. It is new. They have remade it from the ground, it looks like. As an example, the D1 tower with all the new overgrown plants and everything. They show off some lava area and some, what I would take to call them Minecraft cubes. And all of it just looks really good. They also mentioned some new weapon archetypes, which is something I've been wanting for a while, including a sidearm, but it's essentially a talk gun from Borderlands. and it shoots missiles. It's a special ammo weapon, but it shoots missiles. Another thing they mentioned is a golden gun sniper rifle, which again, super interesting things here. We need more of that, more creativity, more input into Bungie. Like Bungie needs to just amp up that. That's what I think me, along with practically everybody else, wants to see is just more creative input into the game. Like, just do more random and weird and interesting stuff that we haven't seen. Like, all of that is a huge W. It feels like they're setting up the final shape, like, in terms of the showcase, to be something huge. Obviously, we can't really say whether or not it's going to be good yet. We don't have our hands on it. But it looks fairly okay so far, like throughout the entire reveal. It looked really good. And I personally do think I'm gonna probably end up getting it because it does legitimately seem good. There is some new supers, another first person super this time for the Warlock, which is nice. It's the second first person super in Destiny, which is insane to think about actually. But it is, and it's really dope. You get like these infinitely recharging abilities, as far as I understood it, and all the allies you have around you will now be able to scorch enemies when you pop your super by just shooting them, along with a new aspect that allows you to have a solar soul that essentially tracks enemies. Like it avoids like the void soul, other than it's just extremely explosive, which again, more of that. Huge W. Good shit. It's also in the final shape, the destination we're going to, the Pale Heart or the Traveler, or rather Inside the Traveler, is gonna be the first new area that is linear. That means that instead of having the entire area and it being like a circle you can drive around on, I'd imagine it's one big line where you have to complete certain things to be able to continue from one area to another. And at the end game, there will be an entire end game area unlocked in that area, which is insane. They haven't done that since what? Like Forsaken, giving us an end game open world area. Again, more of that. Good stuff. Good stuff. And I wanna also, on a sort of side note that's just important to somebody like me, I feel like, I just want to say that I feel like the visuals are really there as well. Like the way the area looks with the in-game stuff they showed is super dope. It's unlike anything we have had in Destiny. We've seen beaches in there, like that's fucking cool. Just don't forget the lava. I do want the lava and like snowy areas and everything. And I think it's really good overall. The final shape, it looks really solid. Obviously, with how Bungie have been the last couple of years, it's kind of hard to just put too much faith into it. But I'm positive, personally. Whether that'll be something that you sort of agree with, I don't know. But personally, I think I'm gonna get it at least just to see how it is. Then I will obviously let you know. Now we get to what I consider the most interesting stuff from the entire showcase. And that it has nothing to do with final shape, actually. It is what is happening after. Because there's been this divide in the community between people who think that Destiny is gonna end after the final shape, or people who think that it's gonna go on, or people who think that it's just gonna be the same old. What Bungie has revealed to us this time around is that instead of seasons, we're gonna get episodes. Episodes will be larger seasons. There'll only be 3 of them. They'll last for 4 months, and they'll essentially work, I assume, somewhat similar to a season, but they're gonna be larger. They're gonna have more content. There's gonna be more cinematic and story stuff, which huge thing there. Do more campaigns. Do more of that. That's what people want. That's why we are playing Destiny. That shit is fun. It's good. And I'll just reuse them for strikes, but like more of that. That is good. And that's really about it. Like we got a post showcase thing as well, where they are talking a lot about the axe. And some of the things that they mentioned is that the axe are essentially going to start out with being a seasonal track like we have now from level 1 to level 100. Then it's gonna, within like a month or two, it's gonna go to 150, then 200, and then 250, which is gonna be where the season then ends. You're also gonna end up having more artifact perks using a somewhat similar structure, as far as I know. Again, it's hard to explain without having had it in my hands. But essentially, it's gonna start out where it is now with like the 20-ish artifact perks ending up somewhere along the lines of 35. which is huge. There's so many perks at this point. I wonder how powerful they'll be. Because the thing is, the only way I can see that being balanced is if they then remove some of the power from them. Because it's no surprise that the artifact has determined the meta the last since it got introduced, basically. With some of the mods just being outright crazy. I mean, particle deconstruction is the perfect example of something that completely blew up the game. We need, I don't want to say we need more of it, but if they want to go that route, then at least don't nerf the current artifact mods. I don't make them worse than what they are now. If I see particle deconstruction back in the future, let it sit at the like 45% damage. Don't like change that, because that would kind of suck. And in general, I feel positive about the season, or like the not the season, the acts or like episodes, because essentially, again, it's gonna be more story. It's gonna be tidier, compacted, and hopefully better because they don't have to do 4 of them, which we have now. We have 4 seasons. We're gonna have 3 episodes. The main question that makes me wonder, which they suggested they aren't gonna do, but I don't know. I haven't seen it live yet. Is whether or not we're gonna have another comedy expansion like the Final Shape, Witch Queen, Shadow Key, Forsaken, like any of the big expansions. Because they didn't reveal one for one, and 2, so far they haven't talked at all about it. Like they've mentioned briefly that we should like they aren't gonna try heavily into the episode thing, but they aren't like opposed to doing it. Like they strongly suggested that we're gonna get another one. But whether or not there's gonna be a 1-year gap, a 2-year gap, a 3-year gap between the Final Ship and the next like Comet expansion, I don't know. And that's sort of an issue in my opinion, because that's sort of the coolest parts of Destiny is when you load it up for that Comet expansion, like that once a year moment where you boot up Destiny. And in my case, I streamed the entire time over on Twitch, and it's like you boot it up and you stream, you sit down with your friend, you're grabbing some good food, usually just takeaway, and then I just play that fucking game for like 2 days straight almost. Right, like I do what I have to do during the day, and then I get home and then I play Destiny, and that's it. That's like my couple of days there, completing the campaign, having fun, looking at the story. Like I'm gonna miss that if that's not there. That has to like be kept up, in my opinion. In addition, and like lastly, I just want to say I feel like the seasonal model, like they also did mention within the showcase, has sort of reached a natural end. Like it could be evolved more than they had, and that's why they're doing the episodes thing. And honestly, I'm positive. I'm positive about it, but I am skeptical. We'll have to see it live in the game. But I think it's so far is a W. I think it's a hugely positive thing, especially since they talked about aspirational items as well being added into set X. Like they want to have the essentially the mask that we had for the 30th anniversary bundle, where you had like the cat mask. They want that, but tied to like the seasonal track at level 250 for that season, so you can say you were there when this happened, which I have been asking for a while. I'm positive about the next year is where I will leave it at. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a definitely a safe. Where my attention is sort of like at right now, if we're talking negative things or criticism, would be that I still haven't heard anything about Gambit. Like, because here's the thing. If they're gonna make a new map for Gambit and call that a day, that's fair, but why even bother making the new map? Why not just let it die? I'm curious about where Gambit is going, or if there is anything there, like if they're just gonna take it out of the game. Because at this point, while I'm heavily against it taking it out of the game, I mean, if that's what they're gonna do, I think it's better than let it just sit and rot. Because that's essentially what's happening after Final Shape if everything goes as it sounded like in the state of the game. And I also think that I'd like to see some talk about like in-game PvE, because it has been feeling lackluster lately. And I'm not talking raids, I'm talking like Grandmasters and whatnot. Like a season like the one we're currently in, Season of the Witch, we have like 3 battlegrounds, which are not even like made for strikes. It just feels weird to play them instead of just playing a normal strike. I'd like to see some talk about that. But other than that, I feel like that's it. I think the entire showcase was a good thing for Bungie. I think it was a W overall. But whether or not we're gonna keep that up, I don't know. we'll have to wait until the content is sort of more in our hands. This is probably gonna be the last I comment on the entire like Destiny Dine or whatever thing until the final shape because I don't really have anything else to say. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you later.